Welcome to the August 3rd, week 13 stand-up for the Gray Area team. As usual, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about what we worked on since we last met, what we're working on today, and if there's any roadblocks in our way. So, Garrett, why don't you start us off?
Alright, Garrett, motion capture. Last week, worked on getting the Gray's final animations completed. Today, mainly going to be implementing those so that he actually uses the animations. And this coming week, probably just go over all the animations and see which ones probably could use some touch-ups. Nothing's really standing my way.
Charles, lead programmer. Just been working on AI, and then yesterday working on getting the build set up so we can do the build review today. And I'll keep working on AI, working on the senses right now. Once that's finished, I'll move on to the behavior trees, which actually handle the decision making of the AI. So hopefully I can get that done soon.
Hey Travis, game design. I've been doing mostly edits to the crash site, adding in more like foliage, adding in the furrows and the debris to make it look more like a crash. Next week I'm probably gonna continue to work on the crash site to improve it with more stuff. The only thing really that's staying in my way is that I'm actually gonna be gone for a few days starting tomorrow. I won't be back until Wednesday. So
Mark underscore art and design. This week I've been working on the military truck, though I haven't been able to make much progress this week due to SIP, but hopefully I can pick up pace today.
Julie, been programmer, been working on the minor reading ability and the HUD icons for locking on interactables and stuff. I'll be continuing doing that stuff, and then the block will be just the time to set this to it.
Frank, game design. I was asked to find images for conspiracy theories and Roswell and soldiers, and I spent hours doing that. That was lots of fun. I enjoyed that. Coming up with all kinds of conspiracy theories. Yeah.
Did you find the number 23?
What's that?
The number 23? Oh, okay.
Zachary World, game programming. This week I added the new animations to the soldiers patrolling around and got them working and waited so that way the footsteps sync up with the sound effects. And I also made it so that way now when the gray and soldiers walk on gravel or dirt, it randomly switches between two sounds, so that way it's not as irritating hearing the same sound every time you take a step.
soldiers get stuck.
Yeah.
It's the same sound.
Travis, I'm the team lead. Real quick, I'll speak to other people who aren't here. Ariana is continuing to work on the hangar. She's going to be wrapping up that very soon. Kylie she fixed up the mesh for the saucer, so now it's one large object, and that way the texture will apply. You only have to drag it on the material on once, as opposed to all the individual components that the UFO was previously, which also gave us some weird lighting issues because it would Unity would project light through the cracks, and so you would end up with this weird like outline on the shadow on the ground. So once we import that, that'll be fixed. Mari created the UI assets for the interactable as well as the cursor, and that she's going to be working on creating some more assets for the HUD. Who am I forgetting? Deshaun. Deshaun finished up the set design for the ranch level, and it's all prefabbed out, so that way we'll be able to merge it in with Travis's scene, no problem, once we get to that point. And then once that's in, he'll be iterating on it to add control paths and objectives and things like that. And then I created the animations for the cursor and the interactables, so that way when you have the cursor, when we have all the systems set up for it, the cursor will be in one state when you're not looking at anything that, in particular. When you look at something that's an interactable object, it'll open up letting you know that, hey, you're looking at something you can interact with, and then it'll lock in once you lock onto a target. Same with the interactable, it starts at a smaller 50% opacity when the interactable is inactive. When you look at it, it opens up and goes to full opacity. When you lock onto it, it does this little spin, makes it look a little bit interesting, doesn't take too long, so hopefully it won't be annoying when people are actually playing around with it. And I'll probably head up a lot of like the little fixes that we need for merging the rest of our stuff in. Things like getting the grass shader fixed up and things like that. Just little touches here and there, so that way any of the areas where kind of the overlap of the work we've been working on doesn't quite line up, smoothing that out so we have kind of a more polished piece at the end. Next week is the Greenlight pitches, as well as Game On Expo. I think if they still only have 4 slots, we'll probably not take up one of those just because we're kind of at the early phase. And so that way we're not showing off something to the public until we have a little bit more, which I think probably best. As well as for the pitches, we're going to have a lot to show off. In this build review, we only merged in kind of stuff that was central to the crash site. They have a whole lot of new functionality, and so this next build that we'll have for the Greenlight presentation should be pretty different to what we've been showing off during this semester. And that's pretty much everything. I think we're in a good position to get everything else in, and that's it.